Hi, I'm Ellie from Turn Athletica.
And I'm Kayla of Kayla and Physio.
And we're here today to talk about motivation and mindset, basically. Alright guys, so this part about mindset, we're going to talk about, I guess, the tools that we use to have more awareness about what we are doing in our life, which contribute towards success. So we have a toolkit which we use, which enables us to do the things that we want to do and also have an awareness if there's anything that's holding us back so that we can push forward and be successful in whatever our endeavor is. So there's three main ones that we're going to talk about: gratitude, journaling and meditation. All of these have certain literature in neuroscience and different fields which kind of back the bits and pieces that we're going to talk about today. So I think Kayla is going to talk about her meditating experience and give you guys a bit of a rundown on how that's really helped her.
Yeah, so what I used to find when I was growing up is that I couldn't actually switch off my brain. And when I started digging more into meditation, I realized actually our minds aren't meant to be switched off. They're sort of always running, just like our heart beats or just like our lungs breathe. It's sort of automatic. So it's not so much about switching off your brain. It's more about becoming aware of your thoughts and realizing that sometimes you have thoughts that might not necessarily be contributing positively towards the way that you behave. So for example, I might have a thought that I'm not good enough to do something, and then this is just a thought and I can either accept that thought or I don't have to accept it. It sort of comes and goes into your mind, and you pick up along the way these things and you take them on subconsciously. So becoming aware of how your mind is working and what it's sort of saying to you, and then you don't actually have to agree. You can just sort of be aware of that thought and think, oh no, that actually doesn't align with the person that I want to be, and then disregard that thought. So I like to meditate to sort of see how I'm feeling during the day and what my mind is sort of telling me, and become a bit more calm if I'm sort of feeling a bit frantic. I like to, once I've finished, write this down, so journal my thoughts down and then put a more positive spin on them if they're not so positive for that day.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the important things that I'm sure both of us have noticed is everyone has a running commentary in their mind that's going all the time. You know, you might be driving along thinking, oh, I've got to call Jane, and oh no, I forgot to do that, that's really annoying. And it's just this constant like down the side of into your ear or in your head, or you know, we don't really even know where that is. It's just in our consciousness. So taking the time, I think, to try and just understand what is going on up there or in there or wherever is really, really important, because you will start to notice things that you say in your head which make a lot of sense of why you're not progressing in certain areas. So a really common one, for example, is I just don't have time for that. It's not really true. You're just not prioritizing time for that in a lot of cases. And that doesn't really matter. I'm not saying it's good or bad that you don't prioritize whatever it is, but you have to make that decision whether prioritizing that time is important enough for you to do it. It's not that you don't have time, it's that you don't prioritize it.
Yeah, so changing sort of things around to fit the way that you want to show up in life.
Yeah, 100%. And that will always be depending on what your goals are and what you want to decide for yourself. And I think you have a big opportunity to decide what your life should be and can be. But those thoughts in your head have to align with that, and you have to also be conscious and decide what that is, for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I've found that really helps is as well as journaling, as well as writing down my thoughts and feelings for the day, is putting a positive spin on them as well. So feeling gratitude for things that are going well, or even things that aren't going so well, and just knowing that those will pass and things will get better as well. It just makes you sort of become a bit more aware of the feelings that you're having, and it's okay to have those feelings, but just know that they will pass, and everything in life is fluid and temporary. But yeah, that's what I found.
Yeah, certainly gratitude's a massive one. So I guess we definitely know that having gratitude elevates you in terms of how you feel. It's quite hard to be angry or depressed or have negative emotions when you have just pure gratitude, just what you have in terms of, you know, most of you guys are going to have so much, and you know, it's easy to sweep that underneath the rug and think like, oh, like you know, I have a hard job, I have this or I have that. But really just taking that time to be like, actually I have a lot and I'm genuinely grateful for that, is a really great tool to just kind of ground you and understand, you know, kind of what's the reality of the situation as well. I think if we can have awareness of what's actually real versus what we kind of are making up in our head, it's really, really important, and we essentially create our reality. So
yeah, and it's not so much about faking it or pretending to be positive if a situation isn't so positive. For example, at this time when we're all sort of in lockdown and isolation, it's kind of easy to go, oh, well, like my business isn't doing so well, and financially this and financially that, and you sort of feel a bit down about everything and worried about the future. But instead you look at it as an opportunity instead and say, okay, I'm grateful that I'm safe, I'm healthy, I'm with my partner that I love, and we're in a great place, and you know, we have fresh air to breathe and all these sorts of things. So, you know, it's just making sure you're still keeping everything in perspective, even if things aren't going.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, it's a hard time for everyone. It's really, really tough. But I think the more you can kind of change that and flip it on its head, the better you're going to feel mentally as well. So looking after your mental health for sure.
Yeah, for me it's definitely helped.
Yeah, awesome.